Hey everyone, I hope that you are having a fantastic day. I wanted to jump in here and talk to you a little bit about food prepping and meal planning because those are two of the biggest things that you can do in order to be successful. I can give you all kinds of information about nutrition, but if you don't put it into practice, it's not helpful to you. And this is probably the best way to put it into practice is by learning how to meal plan and food prep. So let's start with meal planning. When you sit down and you're looking at your next week, and I usually do this over the weekend, depends on when you have time to go to the grocery store. So you want to do this before you go grocery shopping. But normally what I do is I literally sit down with my next week's calendar in front of me and I look at the days ahead, and I always start with dinner time because that's the hardest meal for me to fit in during the day. And I'm sure that a lot of you have, kids and families, that's probably the same for you too. So I look at the week ahead and I look to see, what nights are we going to be home where I can actually cook a meal? What nights are we going to be out where I'm going to need to either have something already prepared, like maybe in the crock pot or leftovers from the night before. And then I look to see if there's any, days when I'm going to have extra time where I can maybe make an extra meal or two for those other days when I'm not around. So I do that first. And then I literally on my calendar write in what meals I'm going to have on what days. So if I'm going to make a turkey meatloaf, it'll say turkey meatloaf and I'll put the vegetable. And then let's say that I'm going to make enough turkey meatloaf so that the next day I don't have to cook again. I'll write leftovers, turkey meatloaf. So I literally plan that out. Now, obviously things change and, sometimes your plans may change. So it's always good to have, if you can make something and freeze it, it's always nice to have that in your freezer in case your plans change or to have a backup plan. But generally speaking, you can pretty much plan out your meals in that fashion. So I always start with dinners because it affects the whole family. Now for lunch, it depends on your situation and your family. As far as lunches go, I am a teacher, so during the school year, I have to be, more strategic with how I plan my lunches. And in the summertime, I have a little bit more flexibility because I'm home most of the time. I am also a taxi driver, I swear. Maybe not really, but like for my kids in the summer. So I have a little bit more flexibility, but if you're going to be packing a lunch for work every day, you're going to want to plan out what are you going to pack. And a lot of people like to pack a similar thing every day. If they like salads, they like to have a salad every day and maybe change up some of the things that go with the salad. But not everybody does. So a lot of times people will make extra from their meal the night before to have that be the leftovers be part of their lunch. So you kind of want to be in the back of your head, be thinking about what am I going to have for lunch the day after, because it might be leftovers, which will make you want to prepare a little bit more, or it might be salads. Now, one of the things that I have gotten into that I love are mason jar salads, which are so easy to do. I actually have a video on my page that shows you how to make a mason jar salad, but there's also a ton of them on Pinterest. So if you love salads for your lunch, you might want to check out the correct order to put the ingredients in. I make 5 or 6 salads at a time and they last all week long in the mason jar, and you just take it out and eat it when you're ready. So I got into a little tip there, but there's that piece of information. Okay, and then as far as breakfast go, it really depends on you. I will tell you that skipping breakfast is not an option. It's not good for you, and it's not an option for you. Now, for me, breakfast is very easy. I drink one of my Shakeology shakes every single morning for breakfast. I mix some fruit in, I put in some healthy fats in there. I have everything in there, and it sustains me for a good 3 hours or so. So, my breakfast is pretty well handled, but you might want, some steel cut oats for your breakfast. You might want to make some eggs for your breakfast. So that's up to you, but you may need to do a little bit of planning for that if you don't have something that is easy like a shake that you don't have to think about. So that might be something for you to consider and plan out as well. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then the other thing that you need to the other thing you need to plan are your snacks, because that is usually the biggest downfall for people is the snacks. You have to think about when you are going to need to eat. Now, for me, I have my shake in the morning. About 3 hours later, I'm ready for my first snack. And usually for me, it's cottage cheese with some mixed berries mixed in. And then I have lunch. And then usually after lunch, I'm looking for something else. And I love those sugar snap peas. So a lot of times I'll have some sugar snap peas and hummus. and I might even grab like some carrots or something again before dinner. It depends on how late we eat dinner. And then you also have that time after dinner. That's a huge issue for me. That's my big snacking time. So try and have something planned for then. So be thinking 3 meals, 3 snacks every day is kind of what you want. And it sounds overwhelming until you break it down and you realize that a lot of times your snacks will be similar, and a lot of times those meals that you made can be your leftovers or they can be your lunch the next day. So it's not as overwhelming as it sounds. And a lot of people eat the same things for lunch or the same things for breakfast, so you're not like every day having to reinvent the wheel. So for this group, I do want you to sit down and do this. Now, let me just give you a couple quick tips as far as things that you can do to help ease this process once you've figured out what you're going to need. One of the things that you can do is you can, and these are like, these first two are really about protein. You can make a bunch of hard-boiled eggs ahead of time. I personally like to make mine in the oven. You get a muffin tin, you put the eggs in the muffin tin, pop them in the oven at 350 for about 30 minutes. You take them out and you dump them in ice cold water just for like 30 seconds, bring them back out. I put them in a container with some paper towel in between and pop them in the fridge, and they're good to go. So you can have that as a snack. You can slice it and put it on a salad. Eggs are just a great thing to have if you are able to eat eggs. The other thing that I like to do is early in the week, I will grill a whole bunch of chicken. It's particularly easy in the summertime when you can throw them on the grill outside. But if it's in the winter, you can also put them, in the broiler, broil them that way, or just, bake them in the oven. But I will usually do, about 4 or so chicken breasts so that I have them throughout the week. They can be quick cut up and put in a salad. They can be cut up for a stir fry. They can just be eaten by themselves. They can be included in, other recipes that you have. So roast or having some chicken breasts, and some people like to actually roast a whole chicken too. I'm not quite that inventive. I just go with the chicken breast. But that's something that you can do ahead of time as well. Same thing with ground turkey. Some people, or lean ground beef, you can brown a whole bunch and put it in a container. It can be put on top of a salad if you're having some type of like a healthy chicken taco type thing, or a healthy beef taco. You can, have that already prepared. You can throw that on the top of a salad if you want. So there's lots of like little things like that that you can do ahead of time. One of the coaches in my group likes to make a big thing of tomato basil soup at the beginning of the week so that she has it for the whole week. So that's something else that you can do. You can make a big batch of something that you would like to eat for the whole week. And usually we do these things on the weekends, but it depends on what your schedule is like. But I, usually do a lot of these things on the weekends. And so right there, you've got a bunch of prep that's done. The other big thing to mention is when you go to the grocery store and you come home, if your family is anything like mine, if you take your fruits and vegetables and you stick them in the fridge, chances are the next time you're getting ready to go to the grocery store, you're emptying out your fridge and you're pulling out all the stuff that didn't get eaten and that rotted and you have to throw it away. If you do it right when you get home, if you cut up your fruits and vegetables, wash them, cut them up, and even put them into smaller portion-sized bags or in some type of portion-sized container, I guarantee you, number 1, you are more likely to eat them. Number 2, so is your family. And number 3, you will not waste as much because it's so easy to look in your fridge and see what's in there and grab and go. So I would also suggest that part of the things that you practice doing is, cutting up your fruits and vegetables and portioning them out. The only vegetables or the only fruits I don't do that with are berries, specific, not so much strawberries, but like if you like raspberries or blackberries, they do tend to get kind of a little mushy. So those are the only ones that I do not do that ahead of time with. I have read and I've tried that you can soak them in a little bit of like vinegar water, but it didn't work for me. So either I didn't do it right or it's not a useful strategy. So for what it's worth, you could try it. Maybe I did it wrong. But those are the only things that I don't do ahead of time. Everything else is washed and cut up so that I am able to just grab and go, and so can my family. So hopefully I gave you some tips and tricks that you can use to help get yourself, started on this. Let me just say as I close that please do not feel defeated if this is overwhelming to you right now, because you have to remember that I'm almost a year and a half, 2 years into this, and this is a process. The purpose in the next 7 days is to get you into the practice of starting to implement some of these things. I'm giving you all the things that I do for you to pick and choose which ones work. If you want to go all in and do everything that I'm saying, that's awesome. But I know some of your schedules won't allow you, and you have to kind of take it in pieces parts. That's how I've always been. I haven't been able to just jump right in and do it. I've had to do a little bit and get really good at it, then the next thing, then the next thing. So if that is you, my biggest takeaway to tell you about this, what I've just talked about, is plan your meals. Do that part first, because that'll help you get the right things that you need at the grocery store and help you have the right things that you need at home to begin with. If the other things of prepping a bunch of food ahead of time or cutting up fruits and vegetables and portioning them out seems overwhelming and you need to table that for now, that's perfectly fine. But start with the meal planning, because that is really the key to having the right foods at your house when you need them. So I hope that this, gives you some useful information. Feel free to post below this video if there's anything that you're wondering about, anything I didn't talk about that you want to know more about. Tell me what you're thinking, your biggest takeaway. I'd love to hear from you. And I will be talking to you guys soon.